Orange County depends on WDXE News, on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
And it's time for Bulletproof Estate Planning. It's Friday, that's right. Have you got your headphones adjusted like you need them yet?
I'm good. I just forgot to do it like I told you.
Well, I know that Mean Joe I was just talking about, he turns them way up because he can't hear. And so when you get them, they're a little bit on the loud side.
I'm not too far behind him, I don't think. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, my friend. And it is Friday, and it's Stan Pierchoski's in the house. And have you had a good week, my friend?
I did have a good week. I was busy, but we had a good week.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a good week for us, too.
All weeks are good. Sometimes we have some issues and stuff, but not necessarily. They never really, very rarely rises to a bad week, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's challenging, but that's what we do. So
yeah.
That actually is the fun part, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So, we're going to, before I forget, this is Bulletproof Estate Planning. We do this show every Friday morning from 8 to 9, and it's a call-in show here at WDXE. You can call us at 931-766-9393.
Absolutely.
And we talked last week, and we agreed that it'd be okay if I go over something that I put together some years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's called the biblical aspects of estate planning.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we did talk about that.
So, and I worried this morning. I thought, shoot, I told Jeff I was going to do that, and I wasn't sure if I had a copy of it on my laptop.
I'm glad you do.
This morning I was working on it, and it was. And so we're okay. So
I'm anxious to hear about this.
No, it's interesting. It's geared toward estate planning,
of course.
But it's let me just go over a couple things real quick. With Christmas coming up, and hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. And I still say Merry Christmas. If you don't,
I do too.
If you don't, too bad.
It's okay.
And I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, because I don't know what we're going to be doing next Friday, which is the day after Christmas. Are we going to do?
Well, I have. Next week and the next week, we're probably going to be off Wednesday through Friday.
Okay.
So we need to make some plans.
We do an encore or something like that.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So I won't be able to say Merry Christmas until afterward.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to the listeners.
Yes.
And coming up, I have seminars from time to time. We do them about every other month. We had one in November, late November, and which puts us in January for the next one. And we like to put them out past the holidays because, I like to spend time with family. And if you like to, listen to our radio show and stuff, the day after Christmas and the day after New Year's, no sense. I don't want to talk about anything that too substantial, because people like to listen. It's just a holiday time to chill out. Just be with family and kick back.
Right.
So the next seminar is January the 24th, which is after all the holidays. We're sort of starting to get back to the normal routine.
Yes.
So January 4th, 2026.
Oh, can't believe it.
Yeah, that's a Saturday. It's at 10 o'clock. It's going to be at the Star Theater right on the square in Pulaski. So
yes.
Will's Trust in the Nursing Home. And, it's not too early to RSVP for that. We already have some sign-ups, and so check that out. If you want to come on. It's a nice trip from Lawrenceburg over to Pulaski, or vice versa. So whenever we have a Pulaski seminar, we get Lawrenceburg folks. Whenever we have a Lawrenceburg seminar, we get Pulaski folks. It's not just confined to that town. That's just where we're going to be that day. So anyway, so I had told you that years ago I did a little research on, because I'm a staunch studier of the Word, at least I like to think I am, and always looking for understanding and
absolutely
meaning,
yes,
meaningful things scriptural-wise.
Yes.
And some years ago, I just sat down and started doing this. It was almost like I was driven to it, because I just sat down and spent a couple of hours at it, or a couple of times, and just put together everywhere it talks about in the scriptures about inheritance. Now, it's a lot. This is just a small sampling of it that I want to talk about today.
Sure.
But I have found that it exists. The word inheritance, depending on what language you're looking at it, the languages of the Bible are Hebrew, Greek, and then in the book of Daniel is Chaldee. And the word inheritance appears in there in one of those three languages just under 300 times. I think it's 291 times, or reference to it.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going over all those, but I'm going to go over some of the ones that I can pair up and compare to things that we do now in 2025.
Yes.
So it's fascinating to me. But anyway, So first we start off with the concept of why, you hear me talk about estate planning every Friday. The concept of why do we do estate planning? Well, if you look at what they call the 30,000-foot view, the overview, there's just a couple of reasons. One, you want to protect your own future, you or your spouses. You want to protect your assets from things like taxes. You want to preserve your assets for your retirement. And if something happens to you and you can't take care of yourself, you want someone to manage your affairs for you. And that's kind of why we do it for our own personal reasons. So we talk about, does the Bible really talk about estate planning? It seems like a fair question.
Yeah.
The answer is absolutely. Absolutely. Both the Old and New Testament teach us how to plan wisely, for the future. Like I said, it appears almost 300 times, which is pretty amazing. So when does it first mention? Okay, bear with me with this stuff because I think this is a fascinating topic. First place it's mentioned is right in the front in the book of Genesis, chapter 15.
Yes.
When we're introduced to Abraham.
Okay.
Okay, and chapter 15, verse 2 says, Abraham is distraught because he has no children born to him and his wife to whom he can leave his estate. Now, so a lot of these quotes are either from the New Standard or the International Version.
Sure.
You can do it from the King James, but you have to get your concordance out.
You have to you have to do a little work.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then the next mention is in Leviticus 25:46 that says, you may even bequeath them to your sons after you to receive as a possession.
Okay.
So, God's talking about how to pass property from one place to the next. So, let's look at, does God recommend a plan for inheritance? Well, most people that we deal with at my office want to distribute to the kids, and they typically want to do it in equal shares, right? I mean, that's usually the way things are done. That's pretty much God's recommended plan.
Yeah.
So if we look in Numbers, I'm in the Old Testament now, but we look in Numbers 26, 52 through 56. The Lord said to Moses, the land is to be allotted to them as an inheritance based on the number of names. To a larger group, give a larger inheritance, and to a smaller group, a smaller one. Each is to receive its inheritance according to the number of those listed. So that is dividing, God sometimes divides the inheritance, or has the concept of dividing inheritance up equally. And this certainly is because it's based on the number of people in the different groups. All right.
That's interesting.
Now, let's think of it this way. Is it acceptable to God to distribute the property unequally? I just talked about giving it equally, and we talked about doing it according to the numbers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about, is it possible to give an unequal, or would he sanction an unequal inheritance?
Unequal?
Any answer? Well,
The short answer is yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Okay, sometimes he does distribute unequally.
Yes.
In Ezekiel, now one of the major prophets, chapter 47, 13 through 14, our sovereign Lord says, these are the boundaries by which you are to divide the land for an inheritance among the 12 tribes of Israel, with 2 portions for Joseph. You are to divide it equally among them, because I swore that with upheld hand to give it to your forefathers, this land will become your inheritance. Mm-hmm. So it's somewhat unequal, because the Levitical priesthood got no portion, and the tribe of Joseph got 2 portions, and the rest of them got 1.
Yes.
The other 10 got 1 each. So
right.
that is an example of unequal inheritance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, sometimes we, in 2025, people want to give an inheritance and they want to delay it.
Yeah.
I mean, a classic example, probably not the best, is a minor child.
Sure.
But let's just say you've got an adult child, you want to give inheritance, you want to delay him getting it.
Yeah.
Let's say, here's what we see a lot. You get a child not overly financially responsible.
Yeah.
And I think I like to say, when we were kids, we were financially responsible. I mean, I had paper route. I did anything I could to earn some money to go to summer camp at Boy Scout. I saved every penny of it. I didn't squander it. I was very aware of hanging on to it.
Right.
And I don't think we see that now, but every generation probably says that when they're in our age.
Yeah.
But I truly believe nowadays I just see so much more of that. So if you're thinking, and I have one of my kids was somewhat like that, and around age 26 or 27, the light bulb really went off finally, and it was not an issue anymore. But I was concerned up to that
Yeah.
point, right? And so, if you got people out there might have experienced this, or at least see it some. So if you want to leave, you want to put down in your, when you do a trust plan, you might, a lot of people will say, well, I'm going to let you have a third of your inheritance at age 25, a third at age 30, and a third at 35, something like that.
Right.
And I guess the theory is kind of like, well, if I give it to you all at once, you blow it all at once. But as you get older, you'll get wiser and more responsible and understand the value of an inheritance, stuff like that. I mean, the reasoning doesn't matter, but it's like a problem, and you want to, that's a solution to do it,
Sure.
to delay the inheritance. So,
Sure.
does God do that? And the answer is yes. In Exodus, which is Exodus 23, verse 29, in Exodus, God tells Israel that he will not give them the promised land all at once, because doing so would be too overwhelming. Instead, he gives the inheritance over time. But I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous for you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased enough to take possession of the land. So
That's an interesting thought,
he's
yeah.
giving them the promised land, but he's dragging it out over time for their benefit. Now, if you have a child that's I'm going to wear reading glasses on my laptop. We'll look at you.
I got you. I'm with you.
So, when you look at a child that's a spendthrift or financially responsible, and you do something like that,
Yeah.
you're doing them a favor.
Yeah.
I often say you're kind of protecting them from themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's a bad habit and you want to structure the inheritance goes to them, not to promote that bad habit, but to help fix it,
Yeah.
it's for their benefit. So, here, God knows it's going to be too much for them, so he's going to give it to them as they can handle it.
Yeah.
It's exact same concept.
Interesting.
All right, so when we talk about estate planning, we leave inheritance to what we call subsequent generations, which is our kids, or if you don't have kids, to your heirs, whoever they are.
Right.
Why do we leave an inheritance? The basic concept is we want to, if you're going to provide, the things you want to provide your loved ones are rest, safety, and protection. Okay, that's the way I look at it.
Yes.
This is the 30,000-foot view. That's why we leave inheritance in the first place, right?
Yes.
Now, so how does God provide rest, safety, and protection in his scheme of things? Well, in biblical times, God did his planning to protect his loved ones from his enemies. Deuteronomy 12:10, you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around you, so that you will live in safety. Okay, so
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
he's taking care of us, giving us the promised land that he promised. Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph.
Jacob.
I'm sorry.
Yep. I'm with
I
you.
was Joseph on the thing in front of me, so sorry. So another way he does it in Genesis 41, verses 35 through 37. And by protecting his loved ones from drought and famine, this food should be held in reserve for the country, to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. So we're talking about protecting inheritance, protecting what we own, to help.
Yeah, that's Joseph preserving.
Now, we talk about our enemies, like now we think about modern times. What are the enemies we want to protect our children from? The word enemy sounds pretty harsh, but
Yes.
The enemies I look at when we do this is lawsuits,
Yes.
divorce,
Yep.
job loss, drug or alcohol abuse, catastrophic illness, or nursing home expenses. Those are our financial enemies.
Yeah, those are financial enemies. They sure are. Yeah, absolutely.
And so when a lot of stuff we do nowadays protect this kind of stuff. You often hear me talk about how you can protect kids from lawsuits, or even yourself in our asset protection trust. You can protect yourself from nursing home expenses. Remember, that's what our asset protection trust and some of our crisis planning is for.
Right.
Catastrophic illness. And drug and alcohol abuse, you hear me talk about that a lot. That's one of those things where when you want to put conditions on your inheritance.
Yes.
Conditions are, you can have my inheritance, but you sure can't use it for any drug-related issues.
Right.
And so we talk about that here coming up.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So, how do we, here in 2025, protect our loved ones from their enemies? Well, we do it by estate planning and asset protection. That's the whole
Sure.
concept of it.
Sure.
So, if we do a revocable living trust. When you do a revocable living trust, you have the trustor then at some point suffers death. And at that point, the property that that person is a steward of or has, passes it on to can pass it on to an irrevocable asset protection trust to each and every child. And that's a way to pass it on to them so that it protects it from their creditors and lawsuits. You hear me talk about that from time to time when we talk about our basic planning.
Right.
And so the concept is here, and it's nothing new under the sun. And once you leave it to these children in these asset protection trusts, what I call lifetime asset protection trust, you are literally protecting it from lawsuits. All these things I just got done talking about. You hear me talk about divorce proofing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if people get divorced, they have to divide their assets up, and people that want an inheritance to stay with their family or their heirs can lose quite a bit of family assets through a divorce because of our divorce laws that divide property up.
Right.
In Scripture, I'm not going to get off into this, but in Scriptures, you didn't divide property in a divorce. Divorce stayed with the birthright. That's the whole concept of it.
Yeah.
If you divorced, there were things you did, but you had an obligation to take care of a divorced spouse if they couldn't take care of themselves. You asked for a bill of divorcement, and certain rights and responsibilities went with that, but
right.
half the property was not one of them. So you got these out west. You got a lot of community property states that just say we don't care what you own, whatever it is. If you get divorced, half goes here and half goes there.
Right.
Which, in my opinion, is that law pales. I mean, it doesn't consider what needs to be considered under circumstances.
Sure.
We are not. Tennessee is not community property, so that's good. That's good. At least I think it's good. So, all right, so moving along here. Now, this is one I love. You hear me talk a lot about when you leave inheritance to a child, can you put terms and conditions on it? Or like they say,
right.
or I like to say, can you attach strings to it? It's like,
yes.
okay, here's a couple examples of modern day life. Okay, I'm going to leave you some money. I'm going to leave you this $50,000 of this money I'm going to leave you. You get, if you go get to a college education, you can have this money to pay for your college.
Sure.
And I think that's that's one example, but I think that's a good example because, a lot of people that don't go to college, usually, not all, but a lot of the times, the reason they don't is they can't afford it. They don't have the money to do it because
right.
it's pretty expensive.
It is.
So if you leave that to them and you overcome the barrier of cost, I think a lot of people that couldn't or wouldn't normally go would. Because
Sure.
they take advantage of that. And it's conditional. In other words, if you go to college, you get the money. If you don't go to college, you don't get the money.
Right.
So there's a string attached to that inheritance.
Interesting.
And you've heard me talk about things like court cases where, because sometimes people ask me, can you do that? Can you put terms and conditions on inheritance? Don't they just get it?
Yeah.
The answer is no. You can't do it with a will, but you can sure do it with a trust.
Yeah.
And you can put conditions on it, like the case I've brought up several times about the mother who left property to her son, but said if he wasn't married to the person he was married to when she wrote it, he just got it outright. But if he was still married to her at her death, then it goes to his sister to control for him. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do remember that. And I'm thinking, what?
And the courts upheld that.
What a different, yeah.
100%. That was definitely a string being attached to it. So,
yes.
Does God sanction attaching strings to inheritance? Well, you bet.
That's a tough one.
In Leviticus 25:18, he says, "You shall thus observe my statutes and keep my judgments, so as to carry them out, that you may live securely on the land."
Yeah.
So if you observe his statutes and all his judgments, then you have his promise that he'll provide
Sure.
the security.
Sure.
So I don't want to go to the natural question that comes, what if you don't? Because I don't like to beg the lightning to strike. It's clear to me what we need to do.
Yes.
And if you go, someday, probably not on this radio show, but I know you share an interest in divinity.
Yes.
And someday we'll talk about, if you go scriptures cover to cover, there's actually 759 statutes, judgments, and ordinances in there.
Wow.
And they cover the entire gambit of life. I mean, they cover marriage, they cover food, they cover health, they cover relationships with other people, they cover relationships with God, they worship. I mean, they just cover every gambit of human life. It's almost like the owner's manual for planet Earth.
It is that.
And
it's absolutely.
It's very. Why do we have to have the volumes and volumes of voluminous books of law now in 2025? I don't know. God summed it all up in 759.
Yeah.
And a lot of those laws derive from that common law jurisprudence.
They
that we
really
have.
do, yeah.
They do. Things like
They really do.
bankruptcy, you know, I'm
Yeah.
getting off track, but bankruptcy's all through here, you know, in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
You know, if you got yourself in a pinch, you know, financially or something like that, you know, you would drive an awl through your ear and put a ring around it and indenture yourself to servitude for 7 years.
That's right.
And then you would be debt-free after that. So
Yeah.
the whole concept of bankruptcy comes from the Old Testament law.
Yeah. But there was a remedy.
Yeah.
There was a remedy.
I mean, you know, if you're in debt, you remember you used to hear about debtor's prison, right?
Yes, yeah.
And we did away with that here in America. But you're in
Right.
debt, you can't pay your bill, they throw you in jail.
Yeah.
Well, now you have no way to pay the
have
bill.
no way
ever.
to
So
pay.
it's like, okay, you can get out of jail when you pay the debt.
Yeah. It's
Well,
not going to happen.
It is a one-sided scenario.
Right.
It's an impossibility.
Right.
So it's not just to do that. You know, the just thing to do, at least from an equitable standpoint, which is what civil law is, and debt, is to provide the person the opportunity to pay the debt off.
The creditor had rather have his debt paid
Absolutely.
than to have his debt not paid. There was the remedy again.
I mean, imprisonment may give you some satisfaction because the guy didn't pay you.
Right,
It's
right.
not. It's not satisfying your
But
debt.
you're still without your money. That's right.
And so, you know, we've done away with that because, you know, they want to, you want some sort of remedy that makes the people whole. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's attaching strings, and how this stuff comes from Scripture. So, how do we attach strings? Okay, we just saw how God does it. Well, you know, like I mentioned before, graduating from college.
Sure.
You know, or you can say something like, "Hey, here's something you get if and when you graduate from
Yeah.
college." You know, that event has to happen first.
Yeah.
And then you get this.
I've heard one too, where the would say you can use this money to pay off your house debt. That has to be used that way, or something like that.
Sure. Or the down payment on the house.
Or the down payment on
Yeah,
the house,
you're right,
or
yeah.
pay off any debts that you have, or something
How
like
about
that.
starting a business? You know, if you're
Starting
an
a business,
entrepreneur
yeah.
and somebody wants to start a business, that's depending on what kind of business is. The capital expense of a business can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that without borrowing tons of money for most people?
Yeah.
You know, just take, you know, let's say you're in the excavation business, or you want to be in the excavation business. You know, not one of those pieces of equipment costs less than a couple $100,000.
Yeah, that's a high dollar business
It's
to
a
get
real
in.
capital investment. I mean, if you're at home on the internet with a business, not much capital investment, but
Right.
But we need the people that are out there building and doing stuff, and that requires
Sure.
a certain amount of that. So you can incentivize that. You know, maybe working on a certain profession. You know, earning an advanced degree. So there's, you know, just you use your own imagination of what you would want to reward
Right.
if they do that. If your kids do something that in other words, you're not saying you have to go to college.
Yeah.
Let's say, like I went to college, and I think it was worthwhile in the long run to be educated, and or, you know, it helps you find a job in a field that you love. You know, my first career was as an engineer. You know, I still love that. I do. I just did some of that at home. My wife wanted me to take out a couple walls and replace it with a beam to open the thing up, right?
Right.
I had to sit down and do some calculations because she thinks you just take the wall out and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's not it, because the roof above you will come crashing down.
That's right.
Especially if above the wall is another wall, then above that is the support of the roof.
Right. Right.
And it has weight to it. And
That's
each
right.
wall has a different weight to it. So you've got to put a beam in there to replace the wall, even though the wall's not there. Now you can do that, but you got to figure it out, calculate it based on span, and you can decide how thick it's got to be to hold that weight. Anyway, all that stuff. I still do a lot of engineering, but you know, I'm always glad I did go to college, and then I went to law school. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I did all that stuff, and so I would like my kids to have the same experience, and so
Sure.
I could incentivize an inheritance and say, listen, you know, I'm not going to make you go to law school. If you don't like the idea of saying here's a bunch of money, but if you don't go to college, you don't get it.
Yeah.
That's a way. But if you think that's a little too harsh, you can say, look, you know, here's some money here that you can have upon graduating.
Yeah.
From that, and I'm incentivizing that.
Sure.
It's another way. It's kind of the same thing, but you're just incentivizing the end result rather than the beginning.
Absolutely.
One suggests a successful indenture, and one doesn't necessarily deal with it. If you
Yeah.
say you have this, here's $50,000, but you can use it to go to school.
Sure.
That doesn't take into account how you get through school,
Right.
passing or not passing.
Right.
But if you get some of the inheritance upon graduating from college,
Yeah.
then it's at the end of the thing. But then
Sure.
again, the first one has the advantage of giving you the money to go through there, like the rent and food and car while you're going to school.
Yeah.
Way you may have just a side job and stuff
And
like that.
and that's where the trustee comes in, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do exactly that. You know, a lot of times you'll leave property to somebody, and perfect example is we'll say, okay, I'm gonna leave property to my kids, but they can't have anything till they're 25.
Yeah.
And the theory there is, you know, I don't want an 18-year-old kid getting a big inheritance. I just don't think they're responsible enough for that. You know,
Right.
I don't want buying a jacked up truck and throwing parties and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
want this to be helpful to him, right? I want it to be helpful. And so you say you can have it when you're 25 or 30. Well, the problem comes up in that span of years from 18. Of course, they can't get it before 18 according to our state law, but the years between 18 and say 25 or 30 are the college years. If you were
Yeah.
typically, I mean, you can go to college after age 30, but
Yeah.
it's tougher.
Sure,
I know,
tougher.
I did it. It's tougher. But the college years, so we can allow if the person is going to college, we can say if you're going to college, we can invade this before the 25th year when you're supposed to get it, and we carve out what we call ascertainable standards, which are health, education, maintenance, and support. So if
Right.
it fits in one of those pigeonholes, then you can use it. And the theory is that's why we left it till they were 25, to be responsible. So if they're taking steps to be responsible before that, and we want to reward that. So we want that to be available to them. Not luxury items. I want to go on a cruise with all my college buddies and just have fun. It doesn't. Those ascertainable standards don't really address luxuries, but
Right.
they do address necessities, and that's very helpful.
Yep.
So-
Yep. It's interesting. Numbers 27 is very specific in how the inheritance is supposed to run. You'll find it in Numbers 27, beginning about verse 7. It just lays out basically almost what we would see as the proper way to do it or whatever.
I want to say something about the book of Numbers. First of all, there's a tremendous amount of information that's just, amazing information that you don't even find some other places in Scripture. But it's also the most difficult book
It is.
plunge through and keep your attention going.
It
because
is.
they properly named it when they said numbers.
Yes.
And you try to get overwhelmed with all these numbers that come out. It's like a census taking of all the
Yeah.
people in the different tribes and stuff. And it's just overwhelming. But if you stick with the thought and concentrate, don't try to take it all at once. There's a lot of really cool stuff in numbers.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating. But it is it's a bit of you're looking through there and you start getting starry-eyed
It is-
within minutes.
It is what I would call weighty scripture.
Yeah.
It
And
really is.
It's typical of the Word.
Yeah.
It doesn't just give you the answer. You gotta look for it.
That's right. That's right.
But they talk about teaching of the 3 levels of Paul. So anyway, so all these things we've just been talking about are ways to encourage good behavior.
Yeah. Interesting.
And
So-
you can discourage bad behavior, right? So if and that's one thing we really want to do. If you've got somebody who's got a drug addiction,
Yeah.
you want to do both when you have that. You want to discourage the drug use, and you want to encourage some sort of rehabilitation if you can. And again, if you leave money to a drug addicted child, now you've overcome the cost aspect of the drug abuse.
Yeah.
And you can be the instrument of that child's destruction, which is
Yeah.
not what anybody really wants to do.
Yeah.
So we try to discourage bad behavior and encourage good behavior. Now, most people like to keep their inheritance in the family. That's not anything new, right?
Nothing new, yeah.
Some folks leave it to charities, leave it to other people and stuff like that. Mostly people with means that have plenty
Right.
to give around.
Right.
But God definitely suggests keeping the money in the family. He also talks about the tithing and helping others.
Yes.
Most of that is done through the Levitical priesthood. But God suggests keeping money in the family. So if you go to Numbers 36, now since you're in the book of Numbers,
Yes.
thus no inheritance of the sons of Israel shall be transferred from tribe to tribe. For the sons of Israel shall each hold to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers.
Interesting.
Then in Ezekiel 46, this is what the sovereign Lord says. If the prince makes a gift from his inheritance to one of his sons, it will also belong to his descendants. It is to be their property by inheritance. So he gives it to the sons, and the son is supposed to give it to his sons, and move it on. And one thing I probably ought to start off with when I talk about this, and that is, we do a lot of estate planning. People say, I got my house, and I got my farm and stuff, and I want to leave it to my kids and all. I think it's always best to keep the big picture in mind. And the big picture is none of it's ours.
That is right.
God has made it clear. This is all mine. Planet Earth and everything on it.
Everything in it.
Including you.
Yes.
including you, Stan.
Yep.
If you would talk to me, I mean, I'm a man of prayer, but
Sure.
you know, I can honestly say in all my years, I mean, I've known his influence, but he's never actually spoken to me, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yes.
But it's like, you know, Stan, there's this 150 acres that you live on. He says, first thing you gotta know is this is mine, it's all mine. Everything on it's mine, the deer that you like to hunt and eat,
Yep.
the grass that you mow, the trees that you cut down for firewood.
That's right.
All of it belongs to me, including you, including your wife, and including all your children.
Yeah.
Is all mine. But I give it all to you to use, to be a good steward over it. If you're a good steward over it, I will bless it, and you will prosper. And you know the story.
Certainly biblical,
And
yeah.
and so when you pass your property down, that's sanctioned by God. But I think he appreciates if everybody understands
Yeah.
the concept that it is his.
That's right.
It's his. But he's such a wonderful God that he lets you have it all to use as much as you want for what you want, as long as you, again, like we said, as long as you keep his statutes, judgments, and commandments is all he asks. Which I don't think he's asking much for the blessings that you get. The blessings are heavily outweighing what you have to do to get them, I think.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, 100%.
But you know, every time God says something, there's always an if-then.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I mean, simple things like seek and ye shall find, right?
Yes.
So what's the thing you're supposed to do?
Seek and to find.
And then, and if you're going to find, you know, if you're going to find it, there's a prerequisite to finding what you're looking for, and that is to seek it.
That's right.
Ask, and it shall be given.
That's right.
Right. So what's
But
the
the asking part.
What's the prerequisite? You got to ask for
You
it.
gotta
It
ask.
just doesn't come.
You have not because you ask.
And the other one is knock, and the door shall be opened.
Right.
Nobody opens the door and shoves you through.
You
Right?
know,
Wouldn't that be great if you just said, "Here's the right door for you. Open the door and shove you through." And then he also says, when he talks about Christ, he says, "I put two doors before you. I put life and one life, one death.
Yeah.
Choose life."
yeah,
Does he put you through the door of life? He says, "Choose life." You have to choose it. I mean, isn't that amazing?
yeah. It is amazing.
So there's no free lunch, and don't think there is, and don't pray for a free lunch because you won't get it.
You know, I have made my living mostly in sales throughout my life.
That's right.
But it took me a long time to figure out the way to sell something is to ask somebody to buy it.
There you go. Hey, that's great. That's great. But that just, I mean, there's so many, Scriptures is riddled with that. The prerequisite to get this, you know, to get whatever he's talking about.
It kind of seems simple after you look back at it, but at the time it was one of those things that I would forget to do.
Well, you know, I'm getting a little off the inheritance thing, but one thing that's always fascinated me, and it's taken me years and years to be able to do, if I'm really doing it the way I'm supposed to do it. But I think I get the concept, but it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
And it is, I'll use healing as an example.
Yeah.
You know, you say you got an ailment, you may have some issues, you know, we all have some issues,
Always,
especially as
yeah.
we get older.
Yeah.
And, you know, God's the great healer.
Amen.
He gave us bodies that'll heal themselves. I often say, if we'll just get the hell out of the way and stop eating the kind of foods we eat and stop doing no exercise and stop taking prescription drugs that we don't need, if we get out of the way, it'll heal itself, right? That's great. But when God says you can pray for healing, you can ask me to heal.
Amen. Right? That's right.
Now, but what he says about that is he says, but you have to pray as if it has already been given to you. Now think about that. Let's say you're hurting.
Yeah.
Back is killing you. You don't even know why. You know, you go to the chiropractor and they rack and crack you, and it feels good for a day or two.
Yeah.
You take a couple of leave, and that helps. You know, but you know, basically you're dealing with the symptoms and not the cause, right?
Right.
Or the effect and not the cause. Now, when you're hurting like that, all you can say is, "Please heal my back. It's killing me.
Yeah.
Please take away this sickness. It's uncomfortable." But you're not praying as if you already received the gift of health. Mm. So you almost have to say, you know, your back's killing you. You have to say, "Thank you for healing my back."
Yeah.
And that's a hard, I'm telling you. Did you think about that for a while?
It goes against our logic.
Well, it's faith. It's pure faith.
Yes.
Because if you well, it's pure faith. I mean,
yes.
That's what he's asking you to do. Have complete faith that will happen. Before I'm going to do it, I want to see the faith part.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. And it's not as easy as it sounds when you read the words. Just try it. And I'm telling you, I found it very difficult. And I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but I think I'm getting there because I do get results when I have those problems.
Isn't that decent? Yeah.
I do.
How about that? Good advice this morning.
Anyway, I stray.
That was a word I needed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people.
If it wasn't for anybody else, that was for me. So thank you.
You know, we nowadays we try to keep money in the family too. You know, we like to keep it next to kin. And it's kind of rare that it's left outside the bloodline, although sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes God actually used the promise of the inheritance in the first place as an incentive, like we're talking about. In Galatians 3:18, for if the inheritance is based on law, it is no longer based on a promise. But God has granted it to Abraham by means of a promise. So the promise of the inheritance.
Yeah, well, what I was reading there a while ago just lays out like the state looks at it. If it's left up to the state, it's like it's in the scriptures actually. If you have a son, your inheritance is supposed to go to, in the biblical times, your inheritance went to your son. If you have no sons, it went to your daughters.
That's right.
If you had no daughters, it went to your brothers. If you had no brothers, it went to your next of kin. It's laid out in numbers.
Oh yeah.
And and that's the way the state would do it.
That's what we call the laws of intestate succession.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a progressive, and it does everything possible to stay in that bloodline.
And we didn't come up with that. That's laid out in scriptures. That's what's funny about it.
But I mean, it's so important that the inheritance stays in the bloodline.
Right.
Is bloodline important to God? I mean, absolutely, absolutely. You look at the bloodline of Christ.
Yes.
You got 14 generations from Adam to Daniel.
Yep.
David, to King David. And then 14 generations from David to Christ. And it's an absolutely pure bloodline. You know, Mary was from the tribe of Judah.
Right.
And Joseph was tribe of Ben, if I remember correctly. But Joseph wasn't a contributor to the bloodline of Christ. It was an immaculate conception.
That's right.
Okay? And the bloodline was attempted to be interrupted a few places along the lines, but it never was successful. So, Christ is a pure blood through the blood of Adam, which was said in the beginning when we created Adam.
Right.
That's where the bloodline comes from. Bloodline is very important to him. Now, it doesn't mean he likes his bloodline other than others. I mean, these days, the Israelites, the Hebrew people were the chosen people, but later in the New Testament, he engulfs all people.
Right.
With the term Gentile and stuff like that. But that is not meaningful to him at that point. Everybody's invited into the process.
Specifically, the bloodline of Christ is the preeminent bloodline.
That's right. That's right.
His mattered completely to fulfill the prophecies that were given.
And it ended with him.
Yeah. That's right.
So we're coming up on the end of the hour, but just a couple more concepts, because there's a lot of this stuff, and you see how we get off talking about it, and that's what I love about it, because you get off talking about it, you just refresh your mind about some of this stuff.
Sure.
And we do healthcare power of attorney. It's the advanced directive, right? There's no mention of advanced directives in the Bible or anything like that, living wills or anything like that. But the Bible does have a lot to say about life and death.
Yes.
So. One of the first scriptures says that human beings were made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And he has invested our lives.
I don't think I've ever considered the subject of inheritance from a biblical perspective when it comes to practical application to us, like we talk about here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Well, let me ask you this thing.
Absolutely.
Now, if you go to Ecclesiastes, which is one of my favorite, on one of my other radio shows, I have to have music, and I have a theme song, and the theme song is the song "Turn, Turn, Turn" by the Byrds, which the lyrics are the book of Ecclesiastes.
That's right.
Anyway, Ecclesiastes 7, verse 11: wisdom, like an inheritance, is a good thing.
That's
So there you go.
Yes, right. Right. And of course, we have an inheritance now with Christ.
Yep. That's exactly
we have been made heirs together with Him, according to the promises of God. So even in that, we're talking about an inheritance.
Here's one I like. I mean, it talks about an inheritance. It's a reference, but what it compares to the reference, I think, is fascinating. So you might want to tell your wife this, and everybody listening might want to tell their wife this, because if you have a good spouse,
yes,
I'm talking to the men. If you're a man and you have a good wife, that is a blessing and that is a gift.
Yes.
And in Proverbs 19:14, it says, "Houses and wealth are inherited from parents." Okay, so there's a reference to inheritance. But a prudent wife is from the Lord.
Amen to that.
It is. Yeah.
What was that Proverbs what?
Proverbs 19,
19.
Verse 14. The
Now that's a
that might go to their head a little bit, but yeah, you know, you have to appreciate them. I mean, if you have a good spouse, you are.
yeah. We got someone who wants
Sure.
to chime in on this.
Sure.
Hey, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Let me ask you something. Would an inheritance always be a good thing, or do you think we could inherit some bad things?
Well, you might inherit some trouble.
Well, you know, we inherited sin from Adam.
That's true.
So, you know, it does depend on what, you know, what your inheritance is, you know, or is it a good or is it a bad, you know.
On a spiritual, you know, Chad, on a spiritual level, we inherited a sin nature. That's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we got to always consider what our inheritance is, and actually what are kind of an inheritance. Some people say legacy, or we leave it behind too. So
That's right.
so you can leave your kids good things, or you can leave them bad things. But anyway,
Yeah.
I know financially, I'll take you know, whatever Dad don't spend on Corvette.
There you go.
That's beautiful, buddy. Thank you, man.
All right, see you, bye.
Yes.
Definitely
Yeah.
an interesting
Hopefully part of this program is to help us not blow our children's inheritance.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. You know, and,
not squander our children's inheritance.
you know,
That would be the thing.
I have often said, I think, sometimes I feel like if you leave your kids a bunch of money in
Yeah.
inheritance, I don't know that you're doing them a big favor. And,
Yeah.
and that's what these scriptures are not talking about. That they're passing on the the birthright, the means to
birthright.
take care of yourself.
The means, yeah.
Because the earth, what you inherit, you pass on is how to stay living and make a living,
Right.
and make enough to get by, plus a little bit more. But the scriptural law is never designed to make anybody wealthy.
No.
I used to listen to a preacher. He's passed away since, but I used to love one thing he said. He said, every month we pay the bills. We take in money, we do this, we take in money. Every month we pay the bills. He said, my ministry is so blessed. He just went on and on about how blessed it was. He said, God himself has blessed this ministry because every month we pay all the bills and we've got 50 cents left over. He said, that is a blessing from God himself.
How about
And when you
that?
just think about that. It's not designed to get fat. Fat meaning
Yeah.
wealthy, overindulgence of having money where you just spend it for the sake of spending it.
Yeah.
That's not there. But so is it a good thing to let somebody inherit a ton of money? I don't know.
You know, what is the verse? I'm not going to get this verse right, but it talks about having a stalled ox in trouble therewith.
There you go.
In other words, plenty of wealth, but a lot of trouble.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, that goes with it. Sure.
And so it's better to have, peace with a morsel. And that's what he's talking about. That's what that guy's talking about.
One good thing is you can't inherit debt. Not even
You cannot inherit debt.
Not scripturally either. It
Yeah.
did not
And
impute
that-
upon a child.
Yeah.
There was sometimes a moral obligation
Yeah.
to deal with that, but in other words, if your parent passes away and owes the IRS $50,000, you do not suddenly have a whole lot of trouble.
Unless the estate has the mean to pay it.
Well,
Means
that's
to
what I
pay
mean.
it.
It may exhaust anything coming your way.
Right, it may
But you
exhaust it.
personally are not
That's right.
going to become a debtor.
Right. Right.
So anyway, I'm just looking through here.
Gosh, there's so many tentacles to this, really. In all the things that we've talked about over the years now, so many things to think about, and preserving what God has given you to steward, as we've talked about.
Absolutely.
Because nothing really belongs to us, as you just pointed out.
I don't have time to get into it, but I have some stuff here about talking about the elderly and respect for elderly and
Yes.
take care of elderly. Because
Yeah.
Moses, in Mosaic law, he talks about, you take care of your parents. They took care of you.
Yeah.
You take care of them.
Right.
As you go on, that's the way we want it to be, because that's
Right.
what God designed. Just a few quick things in Exodus, right, when we're talking about the Ten Commandments. Honor thy father and your mother.
Yes.
Move into Leviticus. Rise in the presence of the aged. Show respect for the elderly and revere for God. And then in Psalm 71, do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. That's something I want my kids to pay a lot of attention to.
Yes.
Do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. So
Wow.
We're coming close.
Wow, that's a good one right there.
So, there is an obligation to take care of your parents.
Yeah.
And most people do. I noticed that. I mean, I don't go a lot of places, but down here in the South, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying this geographical area is very known for that. I mean, it's a no-brainer for people. Everybody does. They take care of their parents.
There's just an assumption that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it happens a lot. We see it in a lot of the elder law that we do. There's a real effort made. And I tell you, I discuss estate planning with others when I go to symposiums or when we have forums that people get together and share ideas with. It's not that way everywhere. I mean, it's very common in other places not to take care of your folks. Or a lot more common than here. Down here, that's what I love about the South. Even if you can't put your finger on it, every aspect of our life down here is usually scripturally oriented. It's with integrity, with honesty, with just the plain concept of a level of like fair play on everything. This is right. Just doing what's right. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as just doing the right thing. And I find people in the South are very much like that. And not just
very much.
That's what I love about the place. I've been here for 40 years. I'm kind of a Yankee by birth. Unfortunately, I was born up in Pennsylvania, but I haven't lived there since I was like 19 years old.
Who was it that said I was born somewhere else, but I got to Tennessee as fast as I could. So.
There you go. I like that. How I got to Tennessee was I was an engineer and I was in nuclear power.
Yeah.
And I used to go from many of the different nuclear power stations, which looks like it might be coming back now. But anyway, one of the ones I got sent to was down in Decatur, the Browns Ferry units, where they have 3 reactors down there. Spent a fair amount of time down there.
Yeah.
And I was in the Tennessee Valley, and I kind of loved the area, but I didn't like the flat area of the valley.
Yeah.
I was outside of Huntsville.
It is flat. There's some flat area.
And I travel every now and then a little north and get in the rolling hills of Tennessee. And one of the first times I came up this way, I thought, man, I'm not crazy about super big mountains, but I love these rolling hills of Tennessee. It's not the flat valley. I mean, the Alabama's a great place, but I just love the terrain up here. I thought that was great. So
we got some flat spots, but we like our hills.
They sure do. And so that's where I knew then that's where I was probably going to settle down. And I actually met my wife that worked at Browns Ferry at the same time. So anyway, one thing led to another, and here we are. My kids can say they're from here. But,
that's good.
I've been transplanted, so I like to think
Well, you've been here long enough that we've rubbed off on you.
40 years. That's a long time to think about it.
Well, I was wondering when she would chime in. It's time.
Okay.
Miss Peggy, you held off as long as you could, didn't you?
I did. I have 2 recommendations to think about in the future, and it's things I've noticed. I'm of a certain age. I've experienced it, been around a lot of different people. Number 1, the sermons on leave and plead in churches have made many men think that they only have to show up for the funeral and the reading of the will. And some of them are finding that they have been written out of wills and it's going directly to the grandchildren, and the wife will never see any of that money in a good use for certain things. The second thing is, the Bible, and even in the New Testament with Christ, doesn't say honor your father-in-law and your mother-in-law. It says honor your father and mother, and this is not just talking about children. That's one issue I think people need to think about. They might need a trust or a special will. Second is should a person who's left, I know of situations where people have outlived their children and their husband, and they've had them, should they put in a trust provisions for their income can only be used to take care of them and their medical necessities, and might not be as likely as being ripped off by caregivers and handling it by friends and distant relatives that don't know them. Just some ideas for some future discussions in the new year.
Good thought.
Good thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Yeah, those are good thoughts.
They are. So, I got a lot more, but those are some of the highlights I like. I just think it's fascinating. When you read the book of Ecclesiastes, it mentions several times that what has been done before shall be done again.
Yes.
And what will happen has happened before.
Yeah.
And there's nothing new under the sun. Okay. So this concept of inheritance is not some concept that I thought up or anybody else thought up. This has been around since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
And it's going to stick around to the end of time.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Anyway, it's fascinating, but we're kind of wrapping up here for the hour. I like to, it's a little lighter topic to talk about. Come to the holidays, and it just brings us back to earth and what the holidays are about.
Amen.
I'm a real fan of the saying that Jesus is the reason for the season, not
Yeah.
because it rhymes, but because it hits the nail right smack on the head.
That's
you
right.
know. I feel we really need to keep that in. If you don't, you need to keep that in mind all the time, really. But
Right.
nowadays, you know, there's an old saying that says, "Count your blessings."
Yeah.
And you know, I don't care how low you are in life at the time, or how bad you feel, or if you're in a really bad spot. If you sit down, you know, I find that if I would sit down with a pencil and paper and start actually counting my blessings,
Oh,
I'd
wow.
probably run out of paper.
Oh, wow.
Although it doesn't seem that way sometimes.
That's
right?
a good exercise
You know,
if you've
but-
never done that.
But I
Just do
think
it.
I've run out of paper, and you know, sometimes you know, I think other people always have it worse, and so you know, you need to be benevolent. You need to be,
Yeah.
you know, it's like in Scrooge. Remember the line, "Mankind was my business," where he says, "You were a great businessman, Jacob, boy." Because mankind was my business. I think that's a powerful statement.
It is a powerful statement.
So
Wow.
anyway, we are winding down here. So seminar January 24th. I'll talk about it a lot between now and then. If you're interested, maybe put it on your calendar.
That'll be in Pulaski.
In Pulaski over at the Star Theater, 10 o'clock on that Saturday. If you want to talk to me about anything we do, estate planning, if you want to talk to me about these scriptural references, I'm always happy to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call me at Pierchoski Estate Law, 931-363-7222, or go to my website, estateplanstand.com. And,
Yeah.
you know, this is what we do. We're more than happy to help you out if you want to do it. I think it's worth doing. You know, it's always good to know that what you're doing is scripturally backed.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of reemphasize too that you're open to just having those phone call conversations, the 15 minutes.
Sure. And they're
because-
never 15 minutes.
Yeah,
That's okay.
but I'm saying, you know, even in my business, sometimes people just need to talk about it to see if
Yeah.
it's something that they really, really need to do. And they may not be ready to make a decision, but they need information.
And usually, if you're not ready to make decisions, because you don't know the options, you
That's
don't
right.
have the information.
That's
you're
right.
talking about.
That's right.
Like, that's what
They
the
know they
seminars-
need to do something, but not quite sure what they need to do.
That's really what the seminars are geared toward.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting close.
Yeah, well, we got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. It's about
Well,
30
again, you know, call me at 931-363-7222
Yeah.
or estateplanstand.com. And I would like to wish everyone, you know, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And and Happy New Year, but Christmas especially. And please remember what Christmas is all about. It's a very in-depth meaning to it, and it's a
Yeah.
gift. It's the greatest gift. Let's appreciate it.
All right.
So Merry Christmas, everyone. And Merry
Amen,
Christmas to
brother.
you, Jeff.
Thank you, buddy. Merry Christmas to you. I hope your family is all well and blessed.
Thank you.
He went from wanted in 2 murders to implicated in another to found dead in a